there's this big table where I'm at, and there's this girl who's like across from me and then 2 seats to the right. And she's this beautiful blonde chick. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I came here to study, but it's you know, playing time. Hey guys, Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com. Today I want to share some day game stories from my earlier days to show you that, you know, everyone starts from somewhere, and some early approaches might be rough and it'll take time to learn how to approach women out during the day and not in a typical environment that you would think you meet girls at parties, at clubs, bars, online dating, through your friends, through work, the good old-fashioned way. So I'm gonna share a few stories of how I kind of came to know and think about what we call day game, which is approaching women out in public and randomly running into them. Well, randomly seeing them and then purposefully running not into them, but up to them and introducing yourself and talking to them, and then hopefully going from there. So it was 2013, the summer, and I just went through a pretty bad breakup with a girlfriend of mine, and it hit me pretty hard. I was very, very depressed, but I had had a little bit of abundance. I'd been with like a dozen, no, like 9 or 10 girls, I think, by that time. So, you know, I had a little bit of experience, but I wasn't yet in the complete abundance mindset where if you lose a girl that you like, of course it's gonna make you sad. If you spend enough time with someone and you have sex with them and you build a connection, it's inevitable that there's gonna be some level of attachment. But the more abundance you have, meaning I understand that there are a practical infinity of women out there who suit my desires physically, personality, vibe / chemistry, that my concern over this girl, while understandable, isn't the end of the world, and that there are more fish in the sea. But it's not just some trite idiom that, oh, you know, cheer up, there's more girls out there, there's more fish in the sea, that people try to tell each other, but it doesn't have any solidity to it, and it doesn't make you feel better because basically you don't believe it. You only truly believe abundance when you either have a lot of girls currently that you're talking to or dating, so losing one isn't a big deal, or you've been with enough women of a high enough caliber who meet your desires that you know, okay, if I did it once, I can do it again. It's sad that it didn't work out with this girl, but you know, I can meet more girls. So I wasn't yet there, just a little bit. And my dad was a big traveler, and by this time he was, you know, he was back in my life. I know I've talked a lot about how I grew up with a single mother, but my dad did come back into my life when I was in my early teens. It made a very strong effort to be a presence in my life, and helped out by giving me, you know, advice and love, you know, the typical fatherly stuff, and actually helped support me a little bit financially, more than a little bit. He was very good at, you know, trying to make sure that I had the things I need, and he would be there to help me. So, you know, he was a huge part of this journey, because what ended up happening was, after the breakup, he's kind of a player too. It's a long story, but he's kind of a player too, so he gets it. So he said, you know, there's a bigger world out there, and he meant that in the life sense, not just the women sense. There's countries and cultures and experiences that are far outside of this, you know, little town that I was in going to college, because my world felt small, not only because of the breakup, but I happened to be staying the summer at my college because I got a job as a bartender at the local college bar, and they asked me to work the summer, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna go back to Illinois and, you know, just sit home and play Dota all day, so, you know, might as well. And I did hook up with a few girls, I didn't end up getting laid because I was just so fucked up in the head. But I did hook up a few times, so that helped. But then he said, you know, there's a bigger world out there. I'm gonna get you a ticket to go to Sweden, which is a country that he really loves. And he said, you know, go and just spend 3 weeks and just go experience things. And so he got me a ticket, and I was very grateful for that because it changed my life. And my first day game experience, so I'm gonna give you 3 stories that really were kind of eye-opening for me. So the first was actually heading to Sweden in the airport. Now what was cool was I'm a storyteller and I tell a lot of stories and I'll go a lot of digressions. So if you're not used to this kind of, my kind of video, just stick with me. I always get to the point, I circle back even if it takes a while. Interesting enough, I had a great experience too. I just want to tell you the experiences that happen when you're social during the day as well, not just with girls. I remember I was at the laundromat and it was right by my house and me and my mom were doing laundry. It was like, I think less than a week before I was supposed to go on my trip. So I went back home, I told my work, I'm gonna go travel for 3 weeks, and they're like, totally understand, go to Europe, go fucking experience your life. And I was at the laundromat and somehow I got in a conversation with this guy. He was this middle-aged black guy and he had this kind of prophet-y kind of vibe. And we somehow got into a discussion, and I think I told him I was studying philosophy. That was my major, philosophy and religion and literature. And so I think that piqued his interest, and then we started talking about religion, and he was very religious. I don't think he was a pastor per se, but he had that kind of pastorly vibe. You know that kind of personality that I'm talking about. And he had that very wise, older, experienced kind of, teaching the young budding kid, the vastness of the universe. And we had this amazing conversation where we talked about scripture, and I wasn't exactly Christian. I lean more towards the Buddhist side of religion, but Buddhism does acknowledge that we're gonna go into a fucking philosophical discussion. But basically, we had a great discussion about scripture and life and God and all this. And that really kind of started to frame my mind in a very interesting way. And I remember my mom even looked at me and was just like, after we talked for like an hour and a half, she's like, that conversation was like, I felt like it was meant to happen. I didn't want to butt in because she was there listening, but she didn't really talk that much. She's like, that was for you. Like that was it felt, we're very spiritual. So she's like, that felt like it was, meant to happen. So I was kind of in this, all right, something interesting is about to happen to me as a person on a lot of levels. And so I went on the trip then with this kind of, all right, this is gonna be an experience, prediction, expectation, hope. And I head to the airport. And as I was gearing up for my trip and heading to the airport and kind of thinking about how it's gonna go, my focus a lot was on women, obviously, because I had just gone through a breakup. And so I said to myself, I remember when I would go to the summers on this island and would run around downtown and try to talk to girls. I very rarely would actually end up doing it, but a few times I did. And I remembered this kind of adventurous attitude that I had. And this was important because I knew that obviously I didn't know anyone there. And so I could meet people at the bars and the clubs because I was 21 by then, but of course I think the age for some clubs is 18 and some of them was like 25. It was very interesting in Sweden. Some of the clubs actually were like 25 and up. But I knew I could go out to bars, but I wanted to have more choice in my life than just waiting for Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I didn't even know when their party nights were. So I thought to myself, I used to run around and try and talk to girls. Why don't I just do that? Why don't I just meet girls during the day? So I had this kind of strategy in mind. I was like, all right, I need to just be talking to girls everywhere. Like it made sense to me. It just jumped out at me as an obvious conclusion as someone who wants to meet women. So I was at the airport and there was this cute girl sitting, waiting for the same flight I was. It was a connection flight. It wasn't the flight to Europe just yet. So I saw her sitting there and I was like, all right, how do I start a conversation? I was like, she's kind of just sitting there, we're waiting. It would maybe be weird if I just went up and just started talking to her. It has to feel more incidental. So I sat there just thinking, fuck, what do I do? Well, in my mind, I guess it's a feminine kind of thinking. But I remember I was sitting on the couch, and again, I just gone through this like kind of religious conversation, awakening thing. And then I had taken a Buddhist course that had kind of slowly started to change my mind about meditation and the mind and the universe. I know you're probably thinking, what the fuck does this have to do with approaching girls? Just stay with me, okay? So I end up just sitting on the couch or the, bench, and I just start meditating. And it's funny because she's actually gonna mention it later once I start talking to her that she noticed it. So I just like put my legs up in a half lotus posture, and I just, do this, and I just start meditating. And I'm, envisioning the things I wanna do. I'm, focusing on objects in my mind and sensations of my body and my breath, etc. And I'm like, oh, I'm being all like cool and mysterious, and she's probably looking at me and thinking, like, oh, this guy is so deep. And I, of course, don't actually approach her, which is the important part, until we're waiting in line. So they call for boarding. I get in line and I position myself kind of nearby her. I think I was right behind her. And then I end up saying, what do I say? It's kind of a more indirect, what we call an indirect opener. It's like not a, hey, I think you're pretty. It's just a comment about something. Do I talk about the line? Or maybe she had a cool backpack. I think it was her backpack. I distinctly remember a backpack. So I think I commented on her backpack, which I guess is kind of a direct opener, but it's not, nice backpack, babe. I open her, I start talking to her, something, right? And for you, those of you thinking, well, that doesn't help me, what the fuck do I say? It just be like, oh, this is gonna take forever, or hey, where are you heading? Or is this a connecting flight? Or are you going somewhere else? So it turns the question into more of a, more complex question. So have some creativity when it comes to indirect openers. And we start talking. She immediately turns around and seems open to me, and I can feel that there is a connection. So we start talking, and we board the flight, and I sit down, and she ends up being kind of close to me, actually. And the seat next to me doesn't get filled. So I'm like, hey, why don't you, we were kind of talking over the seats, and so why don't you come sit with me? And she comes and sits with me, and the air waitress flight attendant chick is totally cool with it. And we just start vibing. And we're having a great conversation for the next few hours. She, interestingly enough, she's a Christian Science. If you're not familiar with that group, it might not jump out at you, but it was a very interesting conversation about her faith, which then, jumped to see, these things do feel like they're connected. Jump back to my conversation just less than a week ago with basically the pastor. So we have a great, amazing conversation. And then I, start kind of turning on the seduction vibe. And we are, or what I say something like, oh, you ever heard of the Mile High Club? And she's like, I think she might've known. Yeah, I don't think she's that naive. But then I say, have you ever kissed someone on an airport, on an airplane? She's like, no, I haven't. And the way she said it and the way she looked at me, it was totally cool for me to do it. But I was so I was still kind of not feeling that great. So I end up not doing it on the plane, but we get off the plane. I start walking with her to her gate. And then I say to her, I gotta head this way, you're heading this way. And I give her a hug. And then I say, you know what? I'm just gonna kiss you in the airport. It's gonna be our first airport kiss. And she's like, okay. And I just, boom. And we start making out. So right away, my first day of, all right, we're gonna go do this. Something happened. So that was a sign to me that when you get ideas in your head and motivations, you need to act on them as soon as possible, because that's where the energy is flowing. If you don't want to be all woo-woo about it, okay, you need to execute on your plans immediately or your motivation will go down, right? So you don't have to make any spirituality out of it. So boom, executed. Good. Kissed her, got her phone number, And we actually end up texting like over the next, 6 months to a year, and kind of having it. We had plans for her to come visit me, but I kind of got sleazy a few times and ended up not working out. Even though she said she would love to have sex with me, but then I would like text her just like too much sexual stuff, and it just made it weird. Anyways, so I made out with a girl at the airport. Boom. All right, good start to the trip. So head to Sweden, and I still have this idea. All right, I'm gonna start approaching girls, right? So I go out, and I think it's the second day, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna go meet girls. So I had this idea. All right, I'm gonna go talk to girls and ask them the best place to eat nearby, and then invite them, right? Two-step process. Is there a cool place to eat around here? Do you wanna go join me? Right. So I'd walk around, I'd say, excuse me, yes, and luckily in Sweden, mostly everyone speaks English, vast majority. And I would ask, hey, excuse me, yes, is there a cool place to eat around here? Oh yeah, there's this burger joint, or this is da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Do you wanna join me? And I would get, flirty smiles and giggles, but usually it'd be like, oh, I'm going somewhere, or oh, sorry, or oh, I have a boyfriend. But I could tell there was something there, right? And obviously I was missing some parts in the middle, and also a girl might be having plans now. Maybe I could have just set something up for later, right? So now, I'm starting to troubleshoot my, my strategy. So the days go on, and I start, approaching more girls, and I end up actually having some dates. Also have a lot of rejections, but for the most part, it's not that bad, the rejections that you get. Most of the time, it's just it's a 2-second thing, and then it's done. It's like my 3rd, 4th day there-ish, kind of hazy. It's been, 8 years now. But I go to the library, yes, and I just want to read. So I go to the library, and there's this big table where I'm at, and there's this girl who's like across from me and then 2 seats to the right. And she's this beautiful blonde chick. And I'm like, oh, okay, I came here to study, but it's playing time. So I'm conjuring up what to say, because now we've been sitting here for a while, and I'm like, that entropy starts to, or the inertia starts to build up, and it's like the bigger the time gap between you not talking her gets, the bigger the wheel gets, basically. And so the inertia is so, when you first see a girl, that's the least amount of inertia. But then when you're sitting and waiting for so long, it gets bigger and bigger, and it's like, oh, what do I do? And the double thinking gets you even more anxious. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, I need to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and in Sweden, interesting, and this is a lot of countries as I learned, you have to pay to go to like a public bathroom. Luckily, I had some kroner on me. So, put the coin in the thing, go to the bathroom, come back, and I'm like, that's what I can say to her. Okay, so I sit down, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ask her about the bathrooms. Real romantic, right? So I look at her and I say, so is it normal here in Sweden for you to have to pay to go to the bathroom? And she looks up, we're the only people there, so obviously I'm talking to her. And she's like, yeah, it's kind of a normal thing. Where are you from? Like, oh, I'm from America. She's like, oh, really? How cool. We're like, where in America? And we start talking. Boom, great conversation. So we end up like sitting next to each other. I think I moved to go talk to her. And then we end up going to get dinner after that. And I remember we finished dinner, and then we start walking to the bus. She has to get a bus to leave. But walking around, and then she's riding her bike, or like walking her bike, and I'm walking next to her, and then she moves her bike on the other side to be closer to me. Like, these little things can sometimes, stand out as like, oh, she wants to be closer. Also, when girls like have their purse and then they switch the purse to not be on, to not have distance, like it's a little thing, but they do mean things. And I could feel her getting closer to me. And at some point, I think I'm taking a picture of like a statue where I'm in Malmö, Sweden. And so I go to take a picture, and she gets really, really close to me. And I can feel this like I feel my heart beating, and I feel my dick getting hard. Like, I feel this excitement when I'm with her. So I'm like, okay, there's something here. So I like take the picture and then I look at her and she looks at me and we just start making out. So we start making out and I'm wearing like basketball shorts. I'm dressed like shit. So I'm wearing basketball shorts and I just get the most like obvious erection. My dick is just fucking flying out of my pants, just like boom. You know, well, not like this. My dick doesn't go like this, but you know what I mean. Like it's just view. And we're like making out hard. And then this fucking, I'll never forget this family, I'm spitting all over myself. This family walks like next to us. And I think the dad is the one who starts like laughing and the kids are like looking and they're like all like, ooh, you know, like look at them making out. And then like we both look at them and we're like, you know, laughing and then go back to making out. But it's like, holy shit, I just met this girl in the library like an hour and a half ago. We had dinner and then I'm making out with her with my erection, just saying hi to everyone on the fucking street in the middle of like the area we're in. So that was an amazing experience that started to open my eyes. And then the third one that really stood out to me was I met this girl, another girl in day game, and then she is like, oh, I live in like a different like little town, but the, you know, the public transportation system there is amazing. So she's like, do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? You know, fucking adventure time. So I get on the train, she takes me to this other city. It's like, I don't know, I forgot how long it was. We go there, we start walking around, there's this nice garden, and we're enjoying our time together. Nothing ends up happening with her. I can't remember the details exactly. I think we didn't vibe 100% and I didn't maybe escalate when I should have. So ends up not working out with her, but then I'm like, all right, it was a nice experience. I got to walk around with a beautiful Swedish girl and you know, it was nice. So I go to get back on the train and it's like about to leave. So I fucking run. I go inside and then I see this fucking gorgeous girl sitting down with another girl who's like kind of cute. But I just immediately, my eyes just go zoom, and she looks at me and I just, without thinking, just sit right across from them. The fucking train is open, like there's tons of seats. But I'm like, it's like that moment where I'm like, oh, should I sit somewhere else? This could be awkward. Fuck it. And I just go boom, and I sit right across them. I'm like, hello, and they go, hi. Boom, things are going really nice. We end up going to a restaurant back in Malmö, because that's where they were heading. And we're having dinner together, flirting, it's going great. And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, you know, which one do I go after? They're both flirting with me a lot. Then I'm like, oh, can I have a threesome? But you know, I was a little bit out of my depth. I think I was just, again, so surprised that this was happening. Like I was still living in, I guess, some insecurity and some, you know, could I really pull this off? Why is this happening? Like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to, you know. So I was a little bit out of my depth, but it was still an amazing experience. I end up not pulling them. We end up just finishing and then we're walking. And I guess I have it in my head, like I wanna pull them, but I think it was too late. And I should have brought them to my apartment. That would have been, you know, like, oh, let's go party, da da da. And then threesome with some Swedish girls. So we're walking. This is an interesting little thing. We're walking and this two guys, one guy is like taller Swedish guy, good looking guy, a little bit buff, like your party dude. Like looks like you're like the guy who would go to festivals kind of guy. The cool guy that everyone knows. And his friend. And they walk up to us and they just start immediately talking to these girls and just like, boom, Swedish. And I'm like, fuck, like I don't, you know, I can't, what do I do? And I was, well, the fact that they gave him attention meant that I didn't have them hooked. So, you know, respect to them, good on them. But it was so, they knew what the fuck they were doing. Homeboy, cool guy, good looking guy, starts smacking on the girls. And then his homie immediately comes to me. He's like, hey man, what's up? Where are you from? I'm like, oh, America, oh cool, da da. And I'm like, bro, I knew what was happening. I was like, I'm getting fucking styled on here, like Navy SEAL operation, but you know, what am I gonna fucking do? And he ends up not actually getting their numbers. I think he was just, you know, wanted to style on me, I guess, and flirt with some girls. But he ends up like giving a hug to one of them. And the other girl, though, super hot one, like, kind of like starts like getting on her tippy toes, like, and leaning towards him to get a hug too. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm done. So ends up, you know, finishing that. and we go to sit down on a park bench, and I'm like trying to show them music, and it just ends up like, I could tell their interest goes to nil. So I lose that. Potential threesome, but hey, it was a great experience. That's what the focus is here, right? These stories might not seem amazing to some of you, right? Some of you who are a little bit more advanced, have some experience, like you didn't even get your dick sucked or anything. It's like, well, that comes later when I start to gain some more confidence and learn how to pull girls from day game and, you know, work on my game. But this is meant to motivate you, and it's meant to inspire you to see, okay, Hector, YouTube dating guru like guy, you know, like started from somewhere, right? And that sounds douchey and narcissistic, but I hope that it does resonate with you as a, hey, someone who does this for a living and has a lot of experience started from somewhere, right? And had this story about the breakup, and then, you know, had these cool experiences that just kind of seem to domino together. Like, you know, is my life like that? Can my life be like a movie? Because mine fucking does sometimes, a lot of times, feel like a movie. So what do you have to do to make your life a movie? Well, make something happen and things tend to follow afterwards. That's the best I can tell you, okay? And the only way for you to confirm or deny that is to go out yourself and have great experiences that will give you the stories worth telling on a YouTube video. Maybe some people don't give a shit about my stories. They think I'm lame, a loser, whatever. But you need to have stories that inspire you. If you think mine suck, okay, go out and get some of yours that don't suck, right? So where I failed, you go succeed. Or if you are inspired by them and you're like, oh man, I wish I could have stories like that too, you can, right? I would love for you to enjoy my stories, right? And to enjoy my channel, enjoy my content. But even more importantly, I want you to go have your own, because that means I'm a good teacher, right? That's the best reward you could give me. Besides buying my stuff, right? And actually supporting me, right? It's to actually live the stuff that I teach, right? I love to get messages from guys who I worked with, like, for, you know, years ago, months ago, I'm working with now. I love to hear their success stories, or get a text from a guy like, hey Hector, you know, my first student texted me a couple months back. He's like, hey man, I'm engaged and I'm getting married, you know, to a girl I really love. And I'm just like, holy shit, like, fuck yeah, right? Or, you know, guys meet girls and when we first were coaching and now they're living together 2 years later and thinking about getting married, right? Or, just, you know, one of my clients messaged me last week. He's like, hey, I pulled from day game. Cool, right? He was usually doing a bunch of party game, and then he's going out and approaching girls during the day, and boom, within like, I think 2 weeks of working, he pulled some pussy. So he had a great experience by putting in the work that'll make you get the experiences. And it's simply going up and approaching women. So hopefully this motivates you to do that. Now, the process for doing it, I spent a lot of time making mistakes, like with the whole, where's a good place to eat? You know, do you want to go with me thing, right? There's obviously some steps in the middle there that I was missing. So I learned how to recognize, you know, when a girl's free now, when she's free later, or, you know, we should do something at a different time. How to have a bit more smooth conversation during the day, to know when to do an indirect opener, as we say, or a direct opener, you know, how to dress, where to go, where to look for the girls, what times are best to look for them, how should the approach actually look, right? All these little questions that you're gonna have, I've distilled them now into a course that will take you from point A to point Z. And so this course is called Meet Girls Everywhere, which is very apt for the stories that I told you. In the train, at the airport, at the library, right? Very different things. At different places, kind of random, you know, not a party, not work, not a dating app, just fucking everywhere, right? That's why it's called that, Meet Girls Everywhere, because I want you to learn how to meet the beautiful women that you see randomly in your life and how to bring them into your life and have experiences worth having with them, and being able to do it in a cool, calm way that makes them comfortable, makes them having fun, makes them enjoy it, but then how to succeed where I failed, because I can teach you from my failures. How to recognize when girls are interested in you. So that course is called Meet Girls Everywhere. It's coming out on July 17th. So if you sign up with your email below, you'll get more free content as the release date approaches, and you'll only get this content if you're signed up. And then when the doors do open on July 17th, which you'll know where to go if you sign up with your email, it'll be open for 4 days. And after that 4 days, it'll be locked for 3 months. Then summer will be over. You could still, do day game, of course. You're not obligated to do it now, but this is the best time. Quarantines are kind of lessening or lifting. People are feeling more social. A lot of people are fucking horny as shit because they've been locked up and cooped up for a year. So now is the best time. That's why we're releasing it on July 17th. So you want to get it from July 17th to the 21st, then the doors will close for 3 months. So I highly suggest that you get it then. You'll also get bonus content that you only get if you get it in this first window. So it's important, grand opening, you get it. So meet girls everywhere, sign up with the email below and get it on July 17th and change your life and have experiences worth telling on a YouTube video for everyone to watch and for you to look back on with joy and satisfaction that you're living a life worth living, okay? So hope my stories have helped you, and I hope my course will actually get you to have your own stories in the future. This is Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, check out Meet Girls Everywhere on July 17th, and I'll see you soon.